Welcome back to Aetheral Space 2.15.
Hello.
Hi.
This is still the same batch of recording. My throat's a little injured, so if there's any more screaming, I'm either going to have Tan read or I'm just going to not be able to do it as much justice.
I
'Cause
don't
wanna
believe there's
hurt.
any more screaming.
Okay, good. Hopefully I'm recording at a good volume. It's coming out a little bit quiet on my end. Maybe it's just because I'm speaking softer because my voice hurts. But if you can hear me fine, it should be okay. So last time, just as I predicted in the 2.13, was it? Yes. Bruno at the last second... Well, first Dragon had like a flashback to his past, and then his past self was like, "Idiot, think!" And Dragon was about to basically break his fist forever, but Bruno saved him at the last second with a force field, which allowed Dragon to do 2 more syringes. So now
And he's
Zakos
also
is struggling.
He's also switched from using the Aether to enhance the syringe to using it to enhance the actual chemical sedative.
Serum. Yeah. I'm surprised he wasn't doing that the entire time. That's what I imagined he was doing. So here we go. Zakos' anger was such that there was no more room for words. The special officer lunged forward with his good arm, trying to grab hold of Dragon once again, but his speed wasn't nearly as fast as it had been a few minutes ago. Dragon ducked under the limb, charged forward, and planted his aether-infused fist right into Zakos' stomach. The blow only inspired the slightest grunt from Zakos, but at the very least it didn't smash Dragon's hand like it would have previously. He was actually fighting like a human now, rather than an insect trying to dodge a boot. Dragon dodged backwards, avoiding another attempted headbutt from Zakos, and began circling over to the right, the side where Zakos' broken arm was. He needed every advantage he could snatch hold of. Seeing what Dragon was thinking, Zakos plunged his good hand deep into the earth and pushed it forward, using it like a shovel to bring forth a torrent of rock and fling it towards his opponent. Dragon winced in anticipation. The attack served as both a smokescreen and a repeat of the one that had brought him down that so long ago. His Aether Ping strategy wouldn't work. It might if he was a little faster, but that simply wasn't the case. He'd have to use what he knew another way. Moving as far as his Aether-infused body was capable, Dragon lunged down to the floor and tore away the remains of the stone tile next to the one he was standing on. Grunting with effort, he held it up to block the rain of rubble, pouring as much Aether into it as he could. The sound of the rubble colliding with the shield was like the rain of an entire thunderstorm compressed into a couple of seconds. Tiny cracks spread in the shield's surface, and for a moment Dragon was concerned that it would shatter and expose him to the onslaught, but it held firm. The second the sound stopped, Dragon tossed the shield aside. Even heavily sedated, he couldn't waste a second against Zakos' speed. And he was right not to. The second Dragon got rid of the shield, his vision was filled with Zakos' enraged face, teeth bared in a bestial grin. "Dodge," he told himself, leaping to the side. "The only thing you can do is dodge. Don't even think about attacking." That was right. Like Skipper had kept saying, his victory condition wasn't landing a punch. In this case, his victory condition was staying alive until the sedatives could knock Zakos out. Still, even with the enhancement to the sedatives, he had no idea how long that would take. Even though he'd gotten himself so pumped up, there was no guarantee of his success. But unlike before, there was no guarantee of his failure either. Dragon and Zakos were like two blurs, one bright blue, the other dark yellow, dancing around each other, always just avoiding contact. Geysers of stone and rubble went flying up from Zakos' blows. A thin trail of blood drops followed in the wake of Dragon's movements. With every second, the palace was becoming even more of a ruin. Zakos' speed had definitely been affected by the sedatives, but his strength was unchanged. The man was like a living bulldozer, tearing the building apart in his efforts to smash Dragon. Even the floor was being smashed to pieces wherever he stood. The rage Dragon had provoked to dull Zakos' mind was what was keeping him going now. It only made sense. Zakos knew just as well as Dragon that he wouldn't be able to keep moving forever. If the special officer couldn't kill Dragon before falling unconscious, he'd lose. He was like a wounded animal, desperate. Dragon couldn't just wait it out. He had to do something to end the confrontation. He ducked down, avoiding a punch, and leapt forward, visibly concentrating all his Aether into his fist once again. It was a move he'd already used once, which was intentional, of course. Zakos was in no state of mind for creativity. If he encountered a problem he already knew the solution for, he wouldn't waste time coming up with another one. And just as Dragon had expected, Zakos reared his head back, preparing to counter with a headbutt. The second Zakos began to thrust his head forwards, Dragon abandoned the punch, dropping his fist and transferring all that Aether to his leg instead. Oh, shoot style, Dragon. Zakos' eyes widened in surprise, but it was too late. He'd already committed to the headbutt. With all his strengths and all his aether, Dragon kicked at a loose chunk of rock on the ground beneath Zakos, and as he did so, he transferred all that aether through his leg into the stone. The rock went flying up with such speed and force that it was like a shooting star, until, of course, it collided with Zakos' chin. There was a sickening crunch as the special officer's jaw broke, accompanied by a low cracking, I assume moan, from deep within the man's throat. He fell backwards. And the momentary opportunity that created, Dragon's mind raced with possibilities. What should he do now? If he could wake Bruno, his force fields could be useful in restricting Zakos' movements. Could he pick up the plasma pistol and use its core as an explosive? If he infused the core with his aether, how powerful would the resultant explosion be? Powerful enough to take Zakos down? If he's unconscious, can't he just cut his throat? Oh, I see. He doesn't think he's unconscious yet. He had no way of knowing, but he had to think of something quickly or else... Dragon blinked. Zakos wasn't getting up. He was still lying there, on a heap, immobile. I assume ragged?
Yeah.
The ragged steadiness of his breath made it clear that it wasn't a trick either. He was genuinely unconscious. He'd won, or he's faking it. Dragon staggered backwards, the exhaustion of the last few minutes finally catching up to him, and collapsed onto his knees. A laugh of disbelief rose from his throat. He'd done it! He'd beaten the special officer! It had taken all the cheating that he was capable of, but he'd won! God, he was dizzy. Dragon put a hand to his head, then pulled it away when he felt sticky, drying blood. That couldn't be good. He blinked slowly. Mila. If he could get to Mila, she could help him out. Bruno and Serena, too. They were in desperate need of medical attention. The camp wasn't far. He was sure he could make it if he pushed himself. No, said his younger self, sitting smugly on a chunk of rubble not far away. You can't. Why not? Dragon mumbled. The younger Dragon groaned, rolled his eyes. Have you already forgotten? He snapped. The automatics. They've been ordered to shoot you on sight, without a doubt, and there's definitely at least a few stationed just outside. I could sneak around, Dragon said, falling onto his stomach, cheek pressing against the cold stone of the floor. Avoid their sensors. The younger Dragon laughed, a malicious sound without any trace of humor. In your condition? It'd be a struggle to walk, let alone sneak around. Hey, I have an idea. Dragon made a questioning sound, all that he was really capable of. Why don't you just die? The younger Dragon grinned. Your life's pretty much over anyway. The Supremacy is hunting you, your only friends are idiot criminals, and you can look forward to assholes like this one chasing you for the rest of your days. Isn't this like the opposite of young Dragon 2 seconds ago? I assume this is Dragon's anxiety / depression / dark thoughts manifesting. I assume when cogitants...
Younger Dragon here isn't really a character. He's just sort of...
Obviously, but I assume compared to like the desire to survive, I imagine when a cogitant has mental health issues, it's like so compounded.
Yeah.
Imagine your depressive thoughts, but you're in bullet time every day and they never end. Dragon squeezed his eyes shut. Tried with all he had to force the hallucination out of his mind. The device his mind had been using to help him brainstorm had turned into a mouth for self-loathing to speak through. The specter leaned forward, its face filling Dragon's vision in the way only a nightmare could. You were meant to die years ago anyway, it hissed. Why not make it official? No, said Dragon, no longer using his failing mouth. The nightmare cocked its head. No? No, I've won. This is my victory. You can't take that away. Yes, I can. No, you can't, Dragon shouted inside his head. Nothing you say means anything. Everything you say is a lie. I should know. I'm the one thinking it. So shut your damn mouth. The younger Dragon took a step backwards, shrugged, sneered. Have it your way. It said, Burger King. It said, as if Dragon was making... I'm sorry, I should be taking this seriously. It said, as if Dragon was making an incomprehensibly stupid decision. Then, it was gone. Dragon sighed, trying to roll over, unsuccessfully. He had clearly made huge strides with his self-image issues, but unfortunately he was still going to die, so he wouldn't get to enjoy it very long. The sound of smashing metal rang out from the palace entrance. Dragon's eyes flicked over to try and look there, but it was just outside his range of vision. What was going on? Had Bruno or Serena woken up? Managed to do something? No, he could still hear them breathing softly. Whoever was doing that, it wasn't them. Had the humanists fought back? Again, hard to believe. They were an archaeology team. They didn't have the necessary skills or equipment to take on combat automatics. So who? It was an interesting question, but strangely enough, Dragon couldn't find the effort needed to pursue it. Hell, even keeping his eyes open seemed to struggle at this point. Speaking of which... Dragon closed his eyes. wasn't like he was giving up or anything, but his eyes were feeling so tired. So he just rested for a moment and... Oh, you're changing your mind? Fuck that. Dragon forced his eyes open again and felt a jolt of surprise. Someone was standing in front of him, looking down at him. His vision wasn't so good right now, so he couldn't be sure, but it looked like a red stain in the shape of... Oh no. In the shape of a person, a crimson cloak hanging around someone's frame. He couldn't make out their face. The outfit was designed in such a way that you couldn't make out anything about the wearer. Intentional, of course. Who? He mumbled, knowing he probably wouldn't get an answer. Someone who dressed like that wouldn't give out their identity for free. The red shadow cocked its head at Dragon, as if considering him, deciding what to do with him. Then it sighed softly, voice modulated by some sort of mask, and brought a fist down into his face.
Wake up, samurai! We got a city to burn.
When Dragon opened his eyes again, the stone floor he'd been lying on was replaced by a soft mattress. There were tubes sticking into his arm, and he could hear the soft beeping of a heart-to-beat monitor. There was something weighing down part of his face, too. A bandage. Okay, so he wasn't dead. That was nice. That was a good start. There was no point in bandaging up corpses. He tried to lift his arm. It was difficult, but that was due to fatigue rather than restraints, so he hadn't been captured by the Supremacy. Well, that was obvious. He wouldn't live long enough to be captured by the Supremacy. Well then, maybe... You're pretty paranoid, aren't you? Said Mila flatly, watching him from a chair on the other side of the room. Oh, he was in the medical tent then. That seemed obvious in retrospect. I hope I'm doing Mila's voice right, I don't remember it. He put his arm back down. What happened? He said, enjoying the fluffy pillow beneath his head. Did someone save me? Mila shook her head. No idea. Once everything was over, we found you dumped on the outskirts of the camp. Dragon furrowed his brow. Not in the palace? Nope. Had that red shadow saved him then? Why? Who were they, for that matter? He glanced at Mila. You're sure you have no idea what happened to me? She nodded. Positive. Mila is totally the fucking... It's Mila or Helga, that's the shadow. It didn't seem like she was lying, but Dragon was hardly in ideal form right now. He couldn't be sure. He glanced over at the bed next to his. Bruno and Serena were lying there, hooked up to far more machinery than Dragon. They didn't seem to be in a good state. Any sign of Skipper and Ruth? He said, without much hope in his voice. Mila looked away. Not yet. Dragon bit his lip. What was keeping them? They weren't exactly running on unlimited time here. A thought came to mind. A terribly important thought that was quite overdue. Where's Zakos? Mila clicked her tongue, swallowed uncomfortably. We, managed to restrain him, keep him sedated so he can't use that aether stuff. We thought it best to wait for you to wake up before deciding what to do with him. Dragon, if you let him live, you were such an idiot. Dragon sighed, putting a hand to his face. Why couldn't problems ever just be solved? Me too, Dragon. If he doesn't kill Samael because of some random moral bullshit, I'm literally quitting the series.
Him, we will be just like him.
If that happens, I'm quitting the series. You're going to have to find a new person to read it.
I would not do that.
That'd be the most unsatisfying conclusion. Although I imagine what this is setting up for is I assume either the next arc or the next good bit of this arc is going to be switching over to fucking Ruth and Skipper's journey. I imagine. Right, question for this time around. Got anything, Tan? Alright, I got something.
What do you think Ruth and Skipper are up to?
My question was cooler.
Okay, go on then.
Alright, we talked last time about if Aetheral Space was a fighting game. If Aetheral Space was a fighting game, who would you main? I'd probably be a Ruth main. Maybe a Helga main if she's the red shadow. No, Musashi main, obviously. Yeah. I forgot he was a character, it's been so fucking long.
I know, he hasn't shown up this whole arc.
Which is sad because he's my favorite. Unless he's the red shadow.
Is
he the red shadow?
That won't make any sense.
Yeah. Your thinking is?
My thinking is, you can't have too much of a good thing.
True. Alright. Well,
whenever Musashi is not there, people should be saying, where's Musashi?
You have 2 questions this week, readers. 1 good, 1 okay. Answer them. And have a good day. That's an order.
Bye.
Bye.